So I initially came to homelessness or home insecurity via my Mind, Body, Spirit program, ASERA in Orange County. I want to say thank you because of the skills that you taught me. I am able to deal with this case manager who has made it her personal mission to try to make my life a living hell. And to insert herself into my case management, which has pushed my timeline of getting the help and the resources that I need to get out of the situation back. You can feel her energy, you can feel her spirit, you can feel her anger, her aggression. And it's very evident. It's so evident that so many people in the same living situation have already told me and prayed with me about it and verbalized it to me that she had an issue with me. So, anywho, after the program, I decided to move in with my sister. My sister was staying with her boyfriend at the time. Her boyfriend and I were kind of cool, associates, not super friendly anymore, but not we didn't hate each other. And so the agreement was that I would help with the Airbnb by making breakfast, supplying groceries, cooking, doing laundry, those types of things until I got a job. And at the end of the program, I was working with a recruiter to try to, have a job within a few weeks to a month after the program. The program was non-negotiable. My father was like, Tiffany, you need to do this for your mind, your body, your spirit, for your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health. And I was like, hey, this is the only type of therapies I haven't tried. Why not? Let's go ahead and try it. So I went into it with an open mind and an open spirit. And I came out with lots of skills and lots of techniques to help with my anxiety, to help with my PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder, to help with my seasonal affective disorder, which is one of the main reasons that I moved to California, because the sun really does play a very important impact on my mood. And I just realized that I needed it for my joints because after I had COVID, my body just started to change on me. My immune system changed, what I could eat changed, my digestive system changed. COVID really affected me differently, and I think a lot of people differently. I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is a hormonal imbalance, which means that as a female, I have more androgens than I do progesterone and estrogen. Been on birth control and lots of other treatment modalities since I was 16. Backstory. So, back to moving in there. The first week I moved in there, unfortunately, her and him had a disagreement, and it ended up in a physical disagreement. And he put his hands on my sister, and that's when I realized that she couldn't be there, and neither could I. And so we decided to hop between places, and that's when it kind of started, where I was couch surfing and trying to find somewhere that was consistent to live. And so my second spot didn't last long, which I knew it wouldn't last long because the person couldn't legally afford for me to be there for a long period of time. So after that, 2 weeks of staying with that person, which I won't mention their name because I'm not trying to get them in trouble with anybody. After staying there, I ended up renting out hotel rooms and cashing out on my financial portfolio, which thank God I had one to cash out on. Your girl did have some backup of the backup. And so I ended up staying in hotels and hostels in LA. And after my financial portfolio ran out, I had an associate in Long Beach where he was like, oh, well, you can stay with me for a little while, you could just cook, clean, whatever. Well, what he didn't say was he wanted to have sex too, and I wasn't really, trying to do all that. I didn't want to confuse our relationship. And so he didn't handle that well, and he was in his own dysfunction, and so that ended with him pulling a gun on me and calling me the devil, and I called the police, and I filed a police report, and I took out a restraining order because he just wasn't right. He just seemed weird, and so I ended up being moved from Long Beach to Los Angeles, and I was supposed to be going to what was called the Weingart Center, I want to say. Got to the Weingart Center like a little bit late, and so I missed the registration, and I had my 2 suitcases and two suitcases and my belongings, and I was just lugging things around left and right. Like, it was a mess. It was a mess. And so I got there, and I got there a little bit too late, and so they had just closed and stopped registration. So I went to the Downtown Women's Center and tried to get some help, and I talked to some lady, and she was like, you got to come back in the morning. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do tonight? And so that was the first day that I slept outside. Yes, I slept outside in front of the Women's Center, and I probably slept outside for like a day. And so then this guy saw me sleeping outside, and he was this Asian guy, and he was like, he felt bad for me evidently, and so he let me sleep in his tent, and he taught me, meal times at the Downtown Women's Center. He kind of told me about what's going on, and I met this other girl who was homeless from another state, and so she gave me the rundown too. And what I didn't know was the guy was on drugs, and I found that out the hard way. And so then I had to keep going to the Women's Center so that I could get a referral to a shelter. And so I stayed in a tent for 48 to 72 hours with someone who had issues. Not judging him, because he could have just left my ass outside with the rest, which started to chew on my freaking cords and chewed on me. Come to find out, they were like, yeah girl, the rats really liked you. They was eating you up. And so finally got into the Women's Center, got some case management, ended up being referred to a different shelter. I thought it was going to be a domestic violence shelter. It wasn't. It was what they so-called had available at the time, which, come to find out, was a lie. But whatever. I'll say that the shelter that I was referred to is not the type of shelter that you need to go to when you're coming off of something like that. They didn't have the capacity, the emotional capacity, the resources to help me in the way that I needed help. And so I'm not ungrateful, because I was sleeping on the floor, and then I went from a floor to a cot, and but they didn't really have trauma-informed employees, and so they definitely needed more empathy, more compassion, less judgment, better food, more nutritious food, more cleanly services, more sanitary conditions. I got sick a few times. I got bit by bed bugs, all over my body. I had never been bit by bed bugs, but I had experience as a medical assistant in dermatology practice for years. So I knew what they looked like. I knew what it was. I will say that I did finally get medical care because they referred me to a place called Joshua's House. And so when I went there, they prayed with me. I ended up meeting a doctor who was able to refill my medicines for me and to get me care. And that's when I found out that I had Medicaid, because when I was in Asera, I had tried to apply, and I was being given the runaround. And so I go to the Joshua's House expecting to pay $10 for the cash pay, which my mom sent me through Cash App. Thank you, Mommy. She's godsend. And find out, oh, ma'am, you have insurance. You have Medi-Cal. And I was like, oh, can you print that out for me? Because I'm gonna need a copy of that, because I didn't apply for that. And that's when I realized that somebody had been using my stuff in California as well. So, part one.